If you guys need any cards, packs, sleeves, anything of that nature, shop on TCG Player using my affiliate link in the description. What's good, YouTube? Welcome back. Today we've got another metagame prediction video, and that is because there is a big tournament coming up this weekend in the Edison format.com Discord. It is part of the Deck Devastators series that I've featured several times on the channel before. My usual co-host, who is responsible for organizing the Deck Devastators tournament, is unfortunately not able to make it today, but if you have the time, be sure to go check out Crow's Nest Yu-Gi-Oh! On YouTube. I'll put a link in the description because she's the one responsible for making these massive events happen over in the Edison Discord. And I guess I can link to the Edison format Discord as well. If you haven't joined that, you should definitely go over there. Even if you don't want to play in tournaments, there's a lot of, just community stuff going on over there that you might be interested in. So let's get into my predictions for the sort of current Edison format metagame. Not a whole bunch compared to usual. As you can see, we're doing the typical format where we just have a bunch of cards in DB because I don't feel like editing a whole bunch. But yeah, the top row, these are things that I think are just like going to be played more, I guess, that we're going to see a lot of or that we're going to see more of. And then the side deck category are cards that I think we're going to see less of, or I'm just kind of not sure on some of them. So I'll specify which is which as I go through. But first and foremost, the obvious context of the current metagame is that Heroes is the deck to beat, right? I mean, Hero Beat is just like been a crazy dominant force in the meta for the past couple of months. On top of that, on the side, we're definitely seeing a fair deal of Hero Frogs emerge as like the secondary hero deck that is like sort of the other big tier 1 threat. I've definitely seen Frogs kind of sneaking back into the meta a little bit more. They had kind of died out a good bit for a while there, for I don't know, like the first 6 months of 2023 maybe. There was just not that much Frogs topping. They were topping about as much as like fairies and some other more sort of roguish tier 2 adjacent kind of stuff. But Frogs have definitely started to re-enter the metagame a little bit more, especially just like Hero Frog has emerged as the like completely dominant build of that deck. I think at this point, if you're playing Frogs, you probably just be playing Hero Frogs. That seems to be the consensus that has emerged. And then obviously Hero Beat, a very different style of deck, but of course it is kind of the elephant in the room in the metagame right now, is just being this ultra consistent, powerful threat. They have like all these crazy good pieces of interaction and trades like Gemini Spark and Hero Blast that let them go positive. They have Miracle Fusion into Ab Zero for one of the most powerful boss monsters in the entire format. They have Divas for synchro plays. They have the Stratos +1. They have a great back row defensive lineup. So just like a very versatile, powerful, consistent deck. Got a lot of stuff going for it. So the heroes they've been everywhere. I covered a top 8, I don't know, like a month ago. It was a pretty recent tournament. I think it was Peak of the Beak or something. Maybe it was WCQ. One of those two had like 6 hero decks in the top 8. It was absolutely crazy. Maybe it was both of them. I don't know. One of them had like half hero decks. The other one had like 3/4 hero decks. It was completely crazy. But yeah, the hero decks are everywhere. Like I said, they're kind of different styles of decks, but I think Hero Beat is sort of the more predominant one right now. Hero Frogs is more of like a standard, just tier 1 deck that is out in the meta. So we're going to be talking a bit more with how things interact with Hero Beat. Now we're going to get into kind of like more out there stuff that I think that we're going to see more of. Not that we're going to be seeing these decks more than standard meta decks, that I just think might show up in some fashion, which is more than you could usually say for them. So Amaryllis and Norlaris are the big ones. These have definitely picked up a lot of popularity recently. They've gone from decks that pretty much no one played to being sort of like vague rogue threats that you run into every now and then that you expect to see. Especially, I think, a big contributing factor to this is something down here, which is DD Crow. I've been seeing a lot less DD Crow inside decks. I don't know if this trend is reversed at all from when I'm thinking, but I've just not been running into much Crow whatsoever. I haven't been seeing it in top deck lists. I don't know why people are cutting this card. There was a time when people were super high on this card. There was a time when people were maining this card. But yeah, for whatever reason, we're just not seeing too much Crow, and I think that it has really created a vacuum for decks like Amaryllis and Norliss to come into the meta. Plus, I mean, these decks just performed well at a couple events recently, so they've sort of picked up some steam in terms of popularity in the current metagame. So I don't know which kind of Norliss or Amaryllis decks we're going to see. There's like a couple different variants out there. There's like Lightsworn versions with Amaryllis. There's like the Botanical Lion build. There's the standard build with Volcanic Counter. Norliss, there's the Dragon build. There's Vayu builds. There's maybe some other stuff like Lightsworn builds. So they both have like several subtypes, but they're pretty similar, I guess, in their play styles. I think we will see some of these two decks. I think basically they've like performed okay at recent events, become more popular. They're sort of like fun decks that have a lot of appeal with normie players. So I do think we will see them. I don't know if they're going to top. Maybe one sneaks into top out of these two. I think maybe one of these two types of decks could feasibly sneak into top cut. That's kind of where I'm at on these. But obviously a big uptick from where we were with these types of decks, which, as I mentioned before, weren't really seeing any play at all up until recently. So yeah. And then another card I mentioned is Machina's. Well, a deck I mentioned was Machina's. I think this deck has really solidified as like a solid tier 2 threat, at least. Like the Machina Lightsworn build, I think the builds have become a lot more refined, a lot more solid. I definitely like that people are playing like double Caius on top of the Hamster Raikou. People weren't doing that before, and I think the fact that we've started throwing a couple Caius in this build has really helped to like round out the sort of removal problem, if that makes sense, because Fortress can get walled by like recruiters and Reapers and stuff, and I think Caius actually contributes a lot. Caius is just a really good card. If your deck can support Caius, and your deck's playing Hamster Raikou also, I feel like you should definitely be playing it. So, yeah, basically, I think this is a deck that has mainly just been sort of refined and improved upon to the point that it's kind of reached its, I don't want to say its apex, but it's reached sort of the peak of the potential of what this build maybe has to offer without, like, significant innovations or deviations. Also, I would like to mention I've been seeing less Cyber Dragons in side decks. We've been going over a lot of top 8s lately, so that's kind of where these opinions are coming from. And I've been seeing, especially Vayu decks, which are pretty popular, are just not playing Cyber Dragon. I've seen Frog decks just not playing Cyber Dragon, which is maybe a little bit more standard since it like conflicts with Treeborn and stuff. But still, I think the decline in Cyber Dragon as a side deck, like as a ubiquitous side deck card, probably helps fuel the rise of Machina a bit. And the final deck I want to talk about is Dragon Turbo. This deck's been going hard recently. I believe it won Ribbit at, what was it, Moreno Valley, California. There was a big IRL event. I wasn't able to make it because it's like 1,000 mile, or 1,000 miles. It's like a 3,000 mile flight. So can't just show up to every one of those, unfortunately. But yeah, Dragon Turbo, I think like the Ghost Rider build, which is a lot more consistent than previous builds, has really like started gaining favorability. A lot more people on like the Reckless Greeds and the Vortex Troopers. I think that's definitely helped out a lot. I don't know, it's just been performing well recently. It probably has a good matchup against like some of the top decks. I think the Frog matchup is probably very good for this deck. I do believe Dragon Turbo like annihilates Frogs, if I'm not mistaken. Also, Blackwings maybe being a little less prominent because Hero Beat is so strong definitely helps out the Dragon deck, which like your Hero Beat matchup isn't great, but it's probably substantially better than your Blackwing matchup because Hero Beat is generally going to take a while to kill you unless they just draw some absolutely stacked hand. Whereas Blackwings will just aggro you down in like 2 turns, and that can be a serious issue for Dragon Turbo. And like Blackwings has a lot of side deck cards that mess you up too as well, like DDV. So I could see a few reasons why Dragon Turbo might be more prevalent in the meta, beyond the self-evident fact that it has been more prevalent in the meta. So I expect we'll probably see a Dragon Turbo deck make a run. It depends, like all these things sort of vary based on like representation, based on luck. There's a lot of randomness and factors that go into it, so we can't make any predictions for certain, but I would not, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever to see Dragon Turbo top this event. And then some other cards I just kind of threw in here are Grand Mole and Compulsory. And the reason I put these in here is, first of all, they both have been seeing more play. Also, they're really good versus Absolute Zero. And as we mentioned before, the hero decks are kind of the threat to beat right now in the metagame. And having these cards that just, like, eat Absolute Zero for free is really, really good. So I think, like, even in main decks, I think these cards could be solid tech choices, and we might see them. Hopefully some players play these cards. I really love Granmole. He's like one of my favorite cards. Compulse has been popping up in tons of side decks and even been sneaking into some main decks, so I wouldn't be shocked to see a decent amount of representation for this card in lists. Now let's get into decks that I do not think we are going to see much of, or decks that I'm not just sure about. Let's start with decks I'm not sure about, which are the Blackwing ones, Vayu and Blackwing. Now these decks are very good. Like, I'm not saying they're bad. Obviously, I'm not even saying they're not going to top. I just think the Hero Beat matchup sucks. I do think it's really bad. I think the Vayu Hero Beat matchup sucks. I think the Blackwing Hero Beat matchup sucks. And we're in a Hero Beat dominant meta right now, so I mean that's kind of an issue for both of them. Like I said, they could still top. Blackwing's a very strong deck. Tops most events, so I'd kind of be surprised if there wasn't a single Blackwing top. I would be really surprised if there wasn't a single Blackwing or Vayu top, because these are two, like, very strong decks that are played a lot. I'm just saying maybe a little bit less than average. You know, maybe instead of 3 to 4 different bird decks, maybe we only see 1 or 2. I'm not really sure. Like I said, a lot of variance that goes into this, but I do think the hero matchups are not good for these decks. So, yeah, especially like Hero Frog and Hero Beat, I think both have a favorable matchup into Vayu. The Frog thing is a little bit more vague with the Blackwing matchup, because post-board, Blackwing's kind of owns that, but I think it's kind of still a 50-50. So the metagame shouldn't favor these decks, but they could just perform anyway. So I'm not completely sold on these. I already talked a bit about Cyber Dragon and DD Crow, just kind of seeing less of them in the side lately. I'm not really sure what's fueling this, because, like, they're both good against Hero Beat, by the way. I feel like people are just straight up wrong to be taking Cyber Dragon and DD Crow out of their sides. Like, they're good against Hero Beat. They're good against so much stuff. They're just, like, such powerful side deck cards. There should be 2 of each of these in every side. So I don't know what's making people take these out, but they should knock it off. I guess, like, Frogs, it kind of makes sense not playing Cyber Dragon, as I mentioned before, but everything else, I'm confused. Vayu only seems to be taking out Cyber Dragon for, like, 1 measly extra deck spot, which I don't understand that. But whatever. Let's talk about zombies. Zombies have been, like, dead. I don't know. They've been nowhere to be found lately. They haven't been topping much. I think there was one, like, zombie plant deck that topped WCQ, which was really cool. I played it in a video the other day. You should go check that out. But yeah, zombies have mostly disappeared. I'm not really sure why. The Hero Beat matchup shouldn't be bad, right? Like, it's really not. And the Blackwing matchup is, like, the big issue usually. And there's, like, the Blackwing Hero Beat matchup isn't good. Maybe I'm, like, emphasizing the significance of Hero Beat when I analyze this stuff, but it is strange to me. I'm not really sure why zombies is worse in the current meta. This is kind of the most perplexing thing. It could just be, like, a random choice by players to play other decks. Like, maybe all the zombie players are just playing heroes now or something. Like, it could literally just be something like that. I don't exactly know. So if you have any theories as to why zombies hasn't been played as much lately, feel free to post that in the comments, because I'm kind of perplexed by this. Yeah, I don't really know. Other than the fact that they're not being played, I couldn't think of a reason, or I couldn't think of anything indicating that zombies wouldn't be played. But yeah, we just haven't seen them. Maybe this will be the event they actually have a breakout performance and they top some more. But I don't think it's a bad deck by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, I put this one in the confusing category, actually, is on second thought. Lightsworn. This deck's in a really weird spot. Maybe this should just be my confused category. I'm just perplexed by all of this. I'm perplexed by Cyber Dragon and Crow being cut. I'm perplexed by by the zombie deck fading out of the meta. And I just don't know what to say about Blackwings and Vayu. Lightsworn also is just, like, I don't even know what the consensus best build is. Is it the ×2 build? Is it the standard build? Is it the Christia version, I don't think it's that one. It was that one for a while, but now it's not. Yeah, I mean, the hero beat matchup sucks too, pretty much no matter what version you're playing. Someone's got to solve Lightsworn once and for all. What is going on with this deck? I feel like it is in a strange place where it's being like pulled in multiple directions, and I don't know if any of the builds are good or which one's the best. But the ×2 one's probably the most popular-ish, or at least like there's a lot of versions that are back on Wolf again lately. I have seen that, but I'm not really sure if that's good. It's kind of weird. The Christia build felt like really crazy sometimes, but sometimes you would just mill a bunch of cards and your mills don't actually do anything and you felt bad and you wanted to be playing Wolf and Negrogarden again. So, yeah, Lightsworn, I don't really know. It could top. It's like a high variance deck. I feel like the high variance deck to play right now is probably Dragon Turbo, though. So, yeah, it's kind of a reversal from where I was at earlier. Before, I was like, you should play Christia Sworn and don't play Dragon Turbo. Now I'm just like, you should play Dragon Turbo and don't play like whatever Lightsworn garbage, because I'm not really sure I like any of the Lightsworn decks that are around right now. I feel like none of them are that great. It's still like an okay tier 2 kind of deck, but I don't know. I've lost confidence in Lightsworn. Whatever. Other decks that we have down here. All right, these two I just think are bad, which are Gemini and Macro Stun. I think Stun is just a non-viable strategy in Edison format in the long run. In the short run, too. I mean, there's just so many bad matchups. There's just so many, like, Blackwing and Hero Beat are huge parts of the meta. Neither one of those decks care about Stun, like, hardly at all. So, yeah, I don't really know. I feel like you get destroyed by a lot of matchups that are super prevalent. And that's kind of the main reason. And like the deck with DD5 and macros and stuff just feels so bricky and inconsistent too. Like if you go first, open DD5 and Survivor and a bunch of stuff, then you feel like you can't lose. But sometimes you just draw some like awkward combination of cards, or I say sometimes, often you draw some awkward combination of cards that doesn't really do anything, and you're just playing like a terrible deck. So I have zero faith in the Stun deck. The Gemini deck actually is crazy when it goes off, which is sometimes. The main reason I have it down here actually is because I've seen so many people playing Super Poly Raptinus, and like literally every hero deck can just side Super Poly with Raptinus in their extra, and they all are, and they're all everywhere. It's just like, good luck, you know? That feels really bad. That feels really bad, but people are doing it to you, so I don't exactly know what to say. You're just going to kind of run into some hero. First of all, the hero matchup is already bad, right? I mean, like, Gemspark and Hero Blast are crazy. They disrupt your stuff super well. Same thing for Blackwings, actually, which, as I said before, bad hero beat matchup, but still super prevalent in the meta. I mean, Icarus Attack messes you up. A lot of the decks that are prevalent right now just have these very robust defensive lineups that, like, proactively mess with you as Gemini. And then on top of that, adding insult to injury, it's just like, Super Poly Raptinus is everywhere for some reason. So I don't know why people are targeting this deck so much. Apparently they're just like really afraid of the Gemini matchup. But from my perspective, it feels kind of like bullying. It's just like you really need Super Poly Raptinus to cope with this like rogue matchup. I guess no one wants to like run into the deck and have them open some good hand and just run you over with their like wombo combo. But you know what? Like, is it really worth siding Super Poly, just going to Raptinus just to mess up that rogue player trying to have fun with Geminis? I don't know. I guess I have some potential disagreements with a lot of Edison players out there, but a lot of Edison players out there are better than me and understand the format better than me. So maybe I shouldn't be so vocal in my complaints. Anyway, with that, we've arrived at the end of my sort of metagame predictions discussions. Let me know what you thought in the comments section. Let me know what you're going to bring to Deck Devastators 5 if indeed you plan to play in the tournament, or don't, and if you don't want to spoil it, or you're playing some like secret technology. I mean, yeah, understandable. But yeah, I'll see you next time. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Furthermore, if you enjoy my content, you should think about becoming a channel member. You get access to tons of bonus content, and it's a great way to help support the channel.